and recorded. There is no reason, if he has nothing to hide, he should sit for a recorded deposition, and he should be able to tell them exactly what his relationship was with Donald Trump.
He's been on the record.
I think
Not on the record.
He has not
Sworn
been,
testimony is
on
different than on the record.
To go out there and imply that, wow, look what we just found. We found co-conspirators. We got people.
No,
and the Congressional Republicans went out there.
They said, why are these people's names redacted?
They're
People's
accusing
names
thousands
is not
of victims.
doxing.
No, but I think, Abby,
It
the
is not
implication
doxing.
from
Hold on.
Ro-Khanna and
Let me
others.
just make this point. It is not doxing to name a person. That is not what doxing is.
I want to tell you guys one thing, man. MAGA are the worst. MAGA are the worst. And in this clip, we're going to see exactly why I say that comment. In this clip, we're going to see Scott Jennings and MAGA radio host Jason Rantz tie themselves into knots and bend themselves into a pretzel, trying to justify why the Republicans in Congress brought Hillary Clinton in and done a deposition on her, but why they haven't done the exact same thing for Donald Trump. We're also going to see Abby Phillips corner Scott Jennings because of the fact that he's trying to justify this absolute political show. As usual, let's watch the clip in full. I'm going to give my perspective halfway through, and then I'm going to save the rest mainly towards the end. Let's get into it.
Good evening. I'm Abby Phillip in New York. Let's get right to what America's talking about. The Clintons, specifically Hillary Clinton, she sat down with the House Oversight Committee today for a 6-hour deposition about what she knew about Jeffrey Epstein. And tomorrow, they're going to speak with Bill Clinton, who appears many times in the Epstein files. But the former Democratic nominee took Republicans on head on, and she made it clear that she had no direct links to Jeffrey Epstein.
I never met Jeffrey Epstein, never had any connection or communication with him. I knew Ghislaine Maxwell casually as an acquaintance. But whatever they asked me, I did my very best to respond. We returned to answer questions repetitively, literally over and over again. I don't know how many times I had to say I did not know Jeffrey Epstein. I never went to his island. I never went to his homes. I never went to his offices. So it's on the record numerous times.
In her opening statement, Clinton called out the Republican-led committee, claiming that her deposition was an attempt to distract attention from President Trump. She also added that if the committee was actually serious about finding out the truth, they wouldn't rely on press gaggles with Trump, and they'd instead ask him actual questions under oath about the tens of thousands of times that his name appears in the Epstein files. It is a question after this deposition, but even before this deposition, what is the point of bringing Hillary Clinton in to ask her about Jeffrey Epstein at all?
Well, I assume they thought maybe she might have some views on it. I mean, Jeffrey Epstein visited the Clinton White House 17 times. Her husband is in the files. He's in photos. I'm assuming she has an opinion about this, may have encountered some of these folks. Ghislaine Maxwell went to Chelsea Clinton's wedding. So, look, I'm not sure what she had to say. My understanding is we're going to get to see the tapes of both of them, and then we'll find out what they know. But I take her at her word that she claims she didn't know him. And the real meat of this week will probably come tomorrow when they get Bill Clinton under oath.
Why is it relevant what her opinion is on Jeffrey Epstein? I thought we were trying to find out whether people were involved in Jeffrey Epstein's crimes.
That's right. And also they asked her about how she felt about her husband being with Epstein or on the plane. And she says, this isn't about my feelings. I'm telling you what I know, and I don't know anything. And the interesting part about this is they knew that this is what they were going to get out of her. They weren't going to get anything out of her. She told them over and over and over again that she had no information about this. They asked her about UFOs. They asked her about Pizzagate. She, at the end, stated in her statement that you played a little while ago, she stated that she had to tell them how to investigate, how to conduct an investigation, because they had not asked previous people that they had deposed about Epstein or Ghislaine Maxwell. And so this is all political. And the fact that they even brought Hillary Clinton to answer for her husband is just laughable. I think at the end of the day, this is what Hillary Clinton does best. She knows how to take on Republicans, and she essentially told them, and she walked out of there, telling them you are not serious about this investigation, and if you are, this is how you run one.
Well, as my friend Joanne Carducci said, there's 3 people mentioned most in the Epstein files, and that's Jeffrey Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, and Donald Trump. One of them is in prison, one of them died in prison, and one of them is the president of the United States. But we're deposing Hillary Clinton. Like, it doesn't make any sense. At the end of the day, the government has repeatedly lied about these files. They refuse to release the full files. Then they're hiding the documents, and now they're pointing allegations everywhere except at the president, who is in the files the very most. And this is a huge distraction to use Hillary Clinton, the like vicious, evil Hillary Clinton, as a distraction from what they've actually done.
Or as a distraction from not going after Trump for 4 years.
Let me play. This is Hillary Clinton talking about what Republicans did not do when it came to the deposition of other people who are also in the Epstein files.
The best exchange that I had came at the very end when, contrary to every other deposition they have taken, no Republican member asked any questions about Jeffrey Epstein or Ghislaine Maxwell to anyone else they have deposed. And in fact, the Republican members didn't even show up for the deposition of Les Wexner.
How do you even explain that, Jason? They don't show up to a deposition of the man who everybody acknowledges is the source of a vast amount of Jeffrey Epstein's wealth and was connected to him for ages.
Well, James Comer was having surgery at the time, so he actually has a good excuse.
Just answer her
The rest
question,
of the
though. Like,
Republicans.
what's her question? Why wouldn't they
Republican
show
shows
up?
No, I don't know
Not a
why the other
single one?
Republicans chose not
I mean,
to show
it
up.
seems,
I have
it
a
seems to show a lack of seriousness.
Well, I think it's a lack of seriousness when we decide to turn this into actual politics. And that's part of the reason why I think there's such pushback from just immediately saying, well, why isn't Trump showing up? I mean, on one side, you have to say Hillary Clinton shouldn't be showing up because that's purely political. She's already said she has no connection and she didn't do anything wrong. Okay, well, Donald Trump has said exactly the same thing. He hasn't done anything wrong. Well, and all we've heard for the last year is these implications that because his name is in the files that he somehow did something wrong, he committed a crime, except no one's actually telling us what the crime was.
They're holding back all the files that have his name.
Okay, I think that's absurd because you've already
think everybody is tired of the political games. The people are just tired of this. I mean, why would you question Hillary Clinton in the first place? I read her statement today. She said, I've been fighting for women and girls my entire life. Why are you questioning me instead of working to make sure all the files are released? Why are you coming after me instead of making sure that the redactions are proper redactions that protect the victims and expose some of the powerful people and their politically connected people? Why are you questioning me instead of questioning the guy that said, I want to go to the wildest party that you have on the island? When is that going to be? Why are you not questioning the Secretary of Commerce who says, I wouldn't go near that disgusting guy, and then it turns out he did go to the island on
why
his boat?
did you not ask those questions for the 4 years in which you had control in?
I've just got to pause it. Sorry, I've got to give my perspective really quick. This Jason Rantz guy is really rattling me because of the questioning. That question, why did you not go after? Well, it's very simple. Joe Biden and Democrats did not run their campaign on releasing the Epstein files. Donald Trump, in an interview, said he would release them. He also brought 2 people into his administration, Bongino and Kash Patel, who both consistently on podcasts spouted that they are going to go after and drain the swamp, as well as letting people know about the Epstein files. That is the reason. Now, should Joe Biden have done it? 100%. I do believe that they should, because this cover-up is disgusting, the worst of the worst. And the difference between MAGA and all of us are the same people is it doesn't matter whether it's Democrat, Republican here in the United Kingdom, Conservative, Labour, whoever you are, if you've done something wrong with Jeffrey Epstein, you deserve to be held accountable. That's the difference between MAGA and everybody else.
I was never paying attention to this issue. I have to be honest. It was not a big issue. And
why now then? Yeah,
because
why now?
It's not my big issue. You've never heard me talk about it before.
You seem pretty passionate.
Because I'm here tonight to talk about this issue, and I'm disgusted by the fact that the American people don't know who to trust about anything.
What did you think about when your colleague Ro Khanna went down to the House floor and doxed 4 people who apparently had nothing to do with this whatsoever? Did you think that was a good use of time?
I actually didn't know that it happened.
There are hundreds of thousands of...
But hold on, I've heard this being brought up a few times, and frankly, I I'm not understanding what the argument is. Are those people in the Epstein files?
Yeah, that's part of the point.
Are they victims? Hold on. Are they victims of Jeffrey Epstein?
They're victims of Ro Khanna.
So no, are they victims of Jeffrey Epstein?
I don't think so.
So what does the law say about whether or not their names ought to be redacted in the files?
It has nothing to do with redactions. It has to do with the fact that a member of Congress went down and doxed people who did nothing wrong and had nothing to do with it.
First of all, the use of the word...
You're decrying politics. You're decrying politics. What was that?
Why are we having this back and forth? I mean, the reality is we know that Jeffrey Epstein did some really bad stuff. We know there are millions of files that have not been released. We know there are millions of files that have redactions that don't make any sense. Why can't we just get to the basic facts of the situation? Why do we have to play the game? Ro Khanna,
because
Hillary
these guys
Clinton.
are running cover. That's why they're running cover. There are hundreds of thousands of documents naming people, including the people that Ro Khanna said on the floor,
who
are in the files.
Revealing people's names is not doxing.
No, I think, Abby, the implication from Ro Khanna and others...
Let me just make this point. It is not doxing to name a person. That is not what doxing is. That's the first thing. The second thing is, there are a lot of people who are innocuous people in the Epstein files. Unfortunately, Congress passed a law that says that unless they are victims, there is no justification to withhold their names. So to those gentlemen, unfortunate that they are being brought up. If they're innocent, fine. That's fine. But there's no legal requirement to withhold their names. And in fact, withholding their names is probably a violation of the law. So I don't understand that whole argument from the beginning. And secondly, there is so much outrage about revealing the names of random men and zero outrage about revealing the names of actual victims. That actually happened in the Epstein files. Why is there no outrage about that?
I don't know why you're saying there's no outrage. I mean, I was on this show when that had happened, like the day after, or a couple days after, and we all were on the same exact page that it shouldn't have happened. The problem was when you're pushing to get millions of documents out there, mistakes unfortunately get made. That is the reality. It is true. It's not something any of us want. No one wants to see any of these victims have anything other than justice. But this idea that there was no outrage, I don't think that that's accurate. To the point of the implication of the individuals who were named, it's not so much that they were named. To your point, and it's valid, and I hope everyone understands this, there are people who are named who have literally nothing to do with anything tied to even the rumor of a crime in those files. But Ro Khanna and some others decided to go out there and imply that, wow, look what we just found. We found co-conspirators. We got people.
No,
and the Congressional Republicans went out there.
They said, why are these people's names redacted
when
they
one
should
step
not
further than that.
be redacted? That's just a simple...
That's part of the law.
That's part of the law. Now, I do want to play this one thing. This is about the Trump of it all. Anna Paulina Luna and other Republicans and the president, they keep insisting that the president has been exonerated. But I want you to listen to this and listen to what she's saying and what one of the actual victims has said about that.
We asked specifically the victims, and we were all there, as well as the Speaker and the Democrat members of Congress, if the president was involved, and they exonerated him. So why would we bring in the president of the United States, who's been exonerated, who cooperated with law enforcement, and who released the files?
I had, Rep. Anna Paulina Luna say that the victims have exonerated him. I have not yet talked to the DOJ. You think the Trump administration has reached out to myself? I can't speak for my survivor sisters, but I'm pretty close with them. I'm pretty sure they would have shared that with me.
Again, forget about Trump for a second here. The FBI, she's a victim. The FBI hasn't talked to her?
Yeah.
What's happening?
And that's extremely concerning. And I think that is the big question that survivors are facing. I think what typically happens in these types of situations is the U.S. Attorney's Office takes lead, and they should be doing all of those interviews. If someone is coming out and saying, I have more information, I have new evidence, it is the FBI's responsibility to go figure out what that new evidence is and potentially open a case for investigation again. And so I think that there is a big question about why the Justice Department isn't necessarily looking at it, isn't necessarily, if someone is saying they have new information, taking that interview. And it just, to me, it seems that there isn't the political will within the building to do that. And so I find it interesting that the whole reason why this started was because Trump and Pam Bondi wanted full transparency because they thought that there were Democratic members and Democrats in the Epstein files. And it started off as political, completely political. And now we are where we're at, where the survivors are not being able to tell their story.
To be clear, there are Democrats in the Epstein
There
files.
are, and there are also
Stacey
Republicans.
Plaskett
And
is one.
actually, I will go back to Donald Trump being exonerated. I actually don't think that there is potentially charged conduct in the Epstein files that there will result in new charges. But if we're going off people who are mentioned thousands and thousands and thousands of times, then Donald Trump should sit for a deposition the way that Joe Biden sat for a deposition during the Her Report and recorded. There is no reason, if he has nothing to hide, he should sit for a recorded deposition, and he should be able to tell them exactly what his relationship was with Donald Trump.
He's been on the record.
I think
Not on the record.
He has not
Sworn
been-
testimony
he has not been
is
on the
different than
record
on the
talking
record.
about it.
He has not done
Same
sworn
with Hillary
testimonies.
Clinton, who you didn't want to.
And she
go
did
in.
it. And she did it.
said she
Donald
shouldn't
Trump.
have.
But Donald Trump, what does
All
he
right.
have to hide?
All right, we got to leave it there. Next for us, ICE arrests.
Honestly, I just listen. I've always understood MAGA are always going to break their back to try and stand up for and try and be in the good graces of Donald Trump, but I just don't understand their thinking and their logic here. It's making no sense. It's making no sense whatsoever, because the reality of the situation is this: if and when the rest of the files come out and it does show up that Donald Trump has done something wrong, if and when, keywords, these guys that went so hard to defend Donald Trump, they're going to be left looking so bad. They're going to be left looking so bad. Furthermore, do they think the rest of us are stupid? We can see exactly, if you take everything that this administration have done and put it all together when it comes to the Epstein files, the way that Donald Trump has tried to get rid of it so many times, on top of the cover-up that his DOJ has done, on top of the things that we've heard him say pertaining to women, on top of the things that he's been found guilty of previously in the past, on top of the fact that Jeffrey Epstein called him one of his closest friends, on top of the fact that we've seen so many pictures and images and videos of Donald Trump with Jeffrey Epstein. When you add all of these things together, is it not a fair assumption, whether you're a Republican or not, to think, okay, maybe Donald Trump has done something dodgy here? In my personal opinion, that is quite a fair assessment. I genuinely believe that it's quite a fair assessment. So what I don't understand is why MAGA genuinely believe that having the position that it is that they do is the right side of things. I just don't get it. But when I think about it, there's only one conclusion that I can come to. One, because like I said, the reality is this: Donald Trump was always going to be temporary. Always going to be temporary. Even if he did run for a third term, which I don't think he will. I hope he's not able to, but I don't think he will. But even after that third term, at some point, he's going to have to come to an end. And somebody is going to get to the bottom of this. And when you have young representatives like Anna, what's her name? Anna, Paulina Luna, and whatnot, and other young members of Congress and Republicans that went to bat for Donald Trump, if something does come out and he is found to have done things that he was accused of, it's not going to look good. But the reasoning, like I said, why I believe they are all doing this is because it's a cult. MAGA is a cult. I'm just going to be honest. I'm going to say it straight. I'm not going to try and mince my words, nothing like that. MAGA is a cult, and Donald Trump is the cult leader. Donald Trump is the cult leader. And that's just the reality. There's no trying to hide it, trying to chop it up, trying to mix and match. There's none of that. Donald Trump is a cult leader, and MAGA is a cult. It's the only explanation for why these people go so hard for him, even pertaining to something like this, even looking at the way he's acting as well as his administration. There's only one explanation, and it's the fact that they're a cult. Let me know what you guys think about this exchange between the panel, Abby Phillips, and Mr. Eyebrows Jason Rantz. Let me know your guys' thoughts in the comment section below. And do me a favor, hit the thumbs up button for the YouTube algorithm and hit subscribe if you're interested in a Brit's point of view and perspective on American politics. Appreciate you guys, and I will see you guys in the next one.